Welcome to the Craftsman interview. I'm here with Dr. Kerri Bongle from Adler School. She is the principal. How are you today?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Let's jump right into it. How's your schedule going? Just can you tell me a little bit about just what's happening at the school right now, how the kids are doing, how the parents
Yeah.
are doing, how the staff is doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that now that we're a little bit more into a routine, the schedule is a little bit less hectic. When we started that first week of remote learning, there was, I think, a lot of stress. The teachers were worried and wanting to make sure they got enough resources out to our parents. Parents were worried that they were making sure that they were getting the materials and getting the resources and getting on at 9 a.m. As administrators, we're just trying to support our staff, our families, our students. So we wanted to make it as seamless as we could while having a whole different norm. I mean, it was like launching a school year day one, but preparing for that school year in a platform we had never anticipated in a matter of a week. So there was a lot of stress. And now on the flip side to that, I couldn't believe how quickly and how much everybody worked together to get this new platform up and running, how quickly parents and students adapted to something that we never anticipated. For our K-5 students, we didn't have devices at home. So just getting that out to parents, we had to distribute all those devices to our kindergarten through fifth grade parents, and how quickly our district kind of mobilized and were able to get those devices out over 2 different launch times. So I would say, those beginning weeks were a little hectic. Now the schedule's a little different. Everyone, I think, is settled in a little bit. Not to say that it's by any means easy or normal for any of us, but I think from a teacher and school perspective, the teachers are starting to kind of figure it out. We're really kind of getting used to those meets, seeing students through a computer. Almost all of our teachers have some sort of office hours or times where they can see their students, or students can drop in and ask questions. And sometimes it's just a matter of maybe they don't have a question, they just want to see another face. So I would say at this point now we're getting a little bit more used to a new normal.
Yeah. Has there been any surprises, or I'm sure there's a lot of new learning that's happening from a staff perspective anyway. Has there been any, what do you see as a silver lining, I guess, is where I'm going?
Oh, I think there's a lot of different silver linings. I think we're all separate, but yet, the want to be together is so out there, and the teachers just wanting to see their students, that those surprises of for example, I really, as a professional, as a parent, I had never really managed in Seesaw before, which is the platform we're using for our kindergarten and first and second graders.
Okay.
And so learning that was new for me, which I know it was for a lot of parents and maybe principals out there who hadn't really gotten into the meat of a Seesaw app. But I think the silver lining is just the togetherness we feel, from the adorable videos that students are sending us to all these parades, that people are planning. Adler did a student parade, which is kind of the reverse of a teacher parade, where we had students come to us and circled around the back of Adler Park School while the staff stood outside and waved and had our signs out. I know the other elementary buildings have either had a teacher parade or are planning one. I think Rockland and Butterfield yesterday had teacher parades through the neighborhoods, which was really fun to see on Twitter. And then I know Copeland is planning one. They're in the process of planning a parade as well. So I think some of those things that we never would have done or never would have planned are really unique and fun. It's a whole different kind of togetherness. And so I think that's a big silver lining for us, is we're getting to know our families really well too. So many of our parents are stepping up and becoming amazing educators while managing a house and working probably full time. So there's a lot of silver linings. I think we just have to kind of look for them.
Yeah, I got to tell you, yesterday I was sitting, because my wife works in her office is the kitchen table basically. My office is in like our family room, and I look outside. So I had my laptop, I was doing my thing, and all of a sudden I heard all this beeping going on. And we live over off of Winchester, so we're at Butterfield. And I got up and looked out the window, and there were signs on the cars and on the vans and whatnot. People were up through the sunroof with Bulldog flags. It was incredible. And I'll tell you, we're all going through so much with this stuff, and your emotions are kind of all over the place. And it just really kind of got to me. And my wife came over to the window, and we were just looking out, and we were kind of counting the cars, like, man, they keep coming. And it was just heartwarming. It was just absolutely heartwarming. And it kind of surprised me how I felt about it. But just that reaching out and that spirit of it was fun, it was meaningful. It was just really, really well done. And I was kind of surprised how I felt about it as an adult. As a dad, it just really kind of struck an emotional chord with me.
I would say
it's working.
Is the overwhelming feeling with those. We did, like we said, we did ours in reverse. And when those parents were coming through, I mean, teachers had tears. I didn't expect to see the tears, in the sense of there were a lot of parents that were crying when they were going through, whether it was a fifth grade parent, a family that we've had here for 12 years who this is their last kiddo passing through, or a kindergarten mom who has two little ones at home who's overwhelmed, and literally her sign said, "Please take my children back." So I think it's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming time. When the governor made the announcement on Friday, that was an overwhelming time for a lot of our staff. Even though we knew it was coming, we read the writing on the wall, and we were all informed. To hear the finality of it, I think was heavy for a lot of people, parents, students, teachers. I had to allow myself 24 hours to grieve over different things, whether it was my fifth grade family's leaving here at Adler, my kindergartner, my personal kindergartner who's not going to have a kindergarten celebration. It's hard I went to school to be an educator, but I still feel that pressure as a parent to be a good teacher for my fourth grader, my second grader, and my kindergartner, and that's really hard to do. I think one of the things that we've talked about or heard about, in various places, is to allow yourself that time to be sad and to understand that there's a grieving process that's going to go in. But then Sunday morning I got up and I went for a run, and we've got to keep moving forward and try to, like you said, the silver linings. Like this time with my family, I never would have had. I don't remember the last Saturday morning in the last 6 years that I've been able to wake up and make a big breakfast and chill with my kids. It's soccer, it's ice skating, it's this, it's that, so I think for a lot of us, to quote one of my good friends, finding peace in that stillness is something that we all have to find, and being okay with it. I'm not somebody who does well with sitting still. And so I've had to really kind of change my mindset on that and be okay with it. So those parades have been quite an amazing thing. I know here at Adler, we're going to try to plan a second parade. We want to honor those fifth grade students in some way, shape, or form that are leaving us. And we want to honor, we have a teacher that's retiring after 32 years of service to District 70 here at Adler. And
what teacher is that, Kerri?
Jack Turner. He's our music teacher. So he has seen so many students, and he's impacted the music program in District 70 by the feeder into Highland, which of course feeds into LHS. And so it's disappointing that we can't honor him in the ways we traditionally have honored our retirees. So we're looking for some creative ways to do that with social distancing. And so we're looking to hopefully have a parade in honor of him, and also in honor of our fifth graders who deserve that recognition of time spent here at Adler. So, those are things that we're still looking forward to, especially when we had such a great turnout and great feedback from our community for all the parades. I know that all of the elementary buildings have been just appreciative of the turnout. I don't think that there's been a dry eye in any of those parades. So
yeah. So what are you telling your staff? I want to ask two questions. I want to get to a message for the kids, but also self-care is critically important. You talked about getting up and going for a run, and I'm sure that clears your head and kind of centers you. What kind of discussions are you having with staff in terms of just, staying focused, but also taking care of themselves? Because especially given the fact that we're online work really lends itself to working all the time, because, we have our laptop, we have our phones, and if my default sometimes in my work is there's always work in front of me, so I can work all the time. What kind of discussions are you having with staff?
That's a great question. We actually had a staff meeting this morning, and that was a topic. So timely question. I talked to teachers today about expecting applying the same rule to ourselves as we are applying to our families, which is taking care of yourself is very important. I've had to set aside time to turn my computer off, to put my phone away more than ever, more so now than ever. It was something that was always a goal of mine to do. But now it's really important to do it, to go outside, to go for a run, to read a book. I mean, whatever it is that you do to settle, I think it's very important. So I think that, and then also remembering that, we are here to support each other, and that, if somebody's struggling in your team or in your department, or you can see that worry, to reach out to them and just say, how are you doing? I know my staff pretty well, being that this is my 8th year here. And I can see people who are stressed. And so one of my messages this morning was to go easy on yourself and to not worry about checking off every single box every single day. Student assignments are coming in, teachers are putting things out there, and making sure that we don't hold that higher standard for our parents. We need to make sure that we're applying that to ourselves, and understanding that we have to make sure that we're taking care of our families, that we're taking care of ourselves, whether that's our pets, our significant others. I know I wasn't prepared to be home every single day with my husband, who's now working from home as well. So, that it adds a whole nother layer of togetherness, and making sure that we do take time for ourselves is an important piece of that. So that silver lining that you can talk about, the reaching out and making sure that we're together even though we're apart is important. And I've seen it in all of our buildings, whether that's at the middle school level or the elementaries. We're meeting as administrative teams, and one of the first things we talk about at our administrative meetings is, how are you personally doing? How are your families doing? Is everybody healthy? And so I think making sure that that's what we lead with, because that is obviously what's the most important.
Right. How about the kids? What kind of message? You're talking to the students right now. What's your message?
Go easy on your parents. So I would say the same rule. I think this is a whole new format of learning, and it's hard. I think that we need to make sure we're focused and that we're still learning, that the teachers are doing everything they can to support you as students, and also to support parents. There are resources out there for everybody, whether it's from your classroom teacher, the PE teacher, the music teacher, the art teacher. If art is your thing, if that's your favorite class in school, make sure you're visiting the site that the teachers have provided, because there's some great materials and resources out there. Our school special ed teams are bending over backwards. If you're a student that receives that support, reach out to your special education teacher if you need help. I know that they are there and waiting to help you. And then, of course, our school social workers are here for you. If you're feeling overwhelmed, whether, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to the social worker, your classroom teacher. Every single staff member at Adler and any of our District 70 buildings is here to help and support you. And if you throw out that need or that want, or you just need a friendly face, we're here to support you. Of course, I want that learning to continue. We're going to pick up where we left off in August. So while I want the learning to continue, do not stress out about it. We're going to meet every student where they're at, and we're going to make sure that we try to make up for that lost time, but everybody's in the same boat. So we're all going to have to figure out what August is going to look like, and to not stress out too much about that, but make sure we are are trying to do some of that learning. And again, go easy on your parents.
Okay, got it. That's great. That's great. So as you were talking, I was thinking about, correct me if I'm wrong, but you and the staff are going through this. I mean, everybody's going through this, but you're working really hard to help the kids learn online. But isn't this the same time of year that you guys are actually planning for next year as well? And I know that goes into the summer as well. I think it's a myth, yeah, school's out for teachers, but
Yeah,
I'm from a family.
Still goes on.
I'm from a family of teachers. It doesn't stop. But how is that going? Or am I right? I mean, I was thinking about the high school the other day. I spoke with Dr. Calentes, and one of the thoughts I had was, man, you guys are probably starting to work on what's going to happen next year. And A, it's a big unknown.
Right.
And B, how the heck are you working on this huge shift we've made to online learning and at-home learning along with the school, and then planning for next year? I look at that as a pretty steep mountain. Am I on the right track? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Again, I feel like you had my staff meeting agenda this morning. So we talked about that this morning, actually. We talked about what planning is going to look like. There's a lot of unknowns, as you mentioned. There's a lot of things right now we can't answer or figure out, or things that are out of our control, but there are some things that are still in our control. When we met with principals this week, we talked about having that list of things that we typically go through in the spring to plan for the following school year, and we're still following it. We're still trying to order materials for next school year when possible, to make sure that we have everything we need to start the year. We talked about, as principals, still holding those class building dates and meeting with teachers, because you know what, we can still meet. We can still have these face-to-face meetings. I mean, it's not in person, but we can still meet and talk about what classes are going to look like for next year. So like, for example, the Adler staff, we're still having our class building day in May, where we sit down and talk about the following school year and what that's going to look like. A big thing that we do in spring is staffing, talking about what the staffing is going to look like for the following school year.
Right.
There's always movement in our buildings with staff based on class numbers. And registration is currently open for D70 right now, so you can still register so that we know what class sizes are going to look. Kindergarten's a big unknown for us every year. This year even more so, because we're like, okay, are people registering? Are they not registering? So our big message to families is to continue to register. If you know that you're to start next year, encourage them to go to the D70 website and register. Our teachers are trying to, our principals are trying to look at those numbers to make sure we have the correct number of teachers. And so we're doing what we can with the information that we have, and still trying to stay on track with anticipating an August start. Obviously, there's so much out there right now with, are we going to start in August? What if the curve comes back, or we get a spike in cases? And I think sometimes we can get a little wrapped up in that. And I think right now what we need to do is work with the information that we have. Yeah. And then as those things get closer, we continue to make those changes. If anything, we've seen in these past few weeks how quickly people can adapt and change and plan for something we never anticipated. So I think we're still plugging along. The short answer, we're still plugging along. We're still checking off those boxes as much as we can, and trying to make sure that there are some things, we are hiring. We had a music position that is open here. Obviously, I talked about Mr. Turner retiring. We knew we had a music position open. We held interviews last week with some candidates. And we're able to hire a music teacher for next year. So there are still some things we're able to get done, and some things that we're going to have to hold off on.
Okay, got it. I have a question for you. I've been thinking about this too. When we think, when I think about the staff at schools, I'm always, first comes to mind are obviously teachers and administrators. But what about, I've been thinking a lot lately of just the custodians, and the people that keep the facility running. I don't know how many people do at Adler. I would imagine there's a small team
Mhm.
of people who keep the wheels turning, in terms of custodian type work and other work that I can't
The
think of off the
facility.
top of my head. I
Yeah.
know it's a big operation. So what are those employees? What are they doing? And maybe you don't have. I don't want to ask an unfair question, but are those people getting paid if they're furloughed, or how does that work?
Our district was amazing right off the bat. We kept everybody whole. So people are being paid. And our custodians, to start out, did a pretty deep cleaning right off the bat.
Okay.
At Adler, we have a small staff of custodians. We're a pretty tiny building. We're the smallest in the district. So we have 3 custodians. Well, it's 2.5 really. We have 2 full-time and then 1 that's shared with another building in the district. And so they, for part of the time we're home, but then part of the time we're in here doing a deep clean of the building. And now that we realized, and the governor made the call for the rest of the school year, we now have a rotating basis. So we have somebody in each of our buildings. At least there's 1 person per day that's in and are doing various jobs around the building. You know, whether it's painting or cleaning an area that needs another deep cleaning. They're opening the vestibules because some of our materials are starting to come in for the next school year. So UPS comes and FedEx comes. We need a place for them to put the materials. So the vestibules are open. And so we've worked on a rotating basis with our custodial staff and our maintenance staff. But yes, as far as our district was great in the sense of right away, the decision was made to keep all of our employees whole in the sense of we've continued to pay everybody throughout this time.
Okay. And there's work to be done. So
there is work to be done. I mean,
that's great. That's
stuff that
great.
we never have time to do. It's like your own home, right? Like those closets that needed cleaning. So they're doing, it's funny, as we've been doing this interview, my wall backs up to the teacher's lounge and I can hear them in there and they must be doing the lounge because the drawers keep opening and closing. So they must be taking all that stuff out and cleaning. And, I'm grateful for that. We've painted a couple of closets and storage areas that needed painting that we've never had time to do in the past. In the beginning, the custodians were amazing in helping us clean and sanitize all the devices that needed to get pushed out to parents. Those had all been in classrooms and had been handled by students. And so we had to pull all of those off of carts, clean them and bag them to get ready for distribution. So every single custodian in each of our buildings was working on that, which was absolutely incredible. So each time we kind of come up with a new initiative or something that needs to get done, they're the first people that are volunteering to help. So that's been amazing.
That's great. That's great. Well, I know you have a lot to do. You're obviously at school.
Yes.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to touch on, or any final thoughts that you want to leave with folks?
No, I just think, I'm grateful and I'm thankful to be part of this district and this community. And Jim, the way you and I connected was through that amazing video that you put out for Libertyville. I sent it to staff. I sent it to my peers and administrators. Just how grateful I am to be not only a parent in this district. I think I mentioned that I have a kindergartner, a 2nd grader, and a 4th grader at Copeland. I've been in the district for 19 years. So clearly I'm go Libertyville. I've been incredibly impressed in each hat that I wear in this community to be a part of it. And I've been so impressed with the teachers and the parents and the administrators and the district office staff on the togetherness and how quickly we've come together as a community. So I'm just grateful and I'm thankful to be here and appreciative of the time to talk with you.
Thank you.
And so I just want everybody to stay healthy and stay safe. And I really do truly look forward to a time when we can all be together again.
Great. Well, thanks again for taking the time. It's been a pleasure just talking to you today, and then our texts back and forth about all the different things that we're doing in terms of scheduling and with the kids and all of that stuff. And I respect your leadership and the hard work that you and your whole team, top to bottom, are doing for the community on behalf of for the kids in our community, because it's cliche, but they're our future, and now's the time to double down. So
Yeah, absolutely.
thanks again, Kerri, and I hope to
Thanks,
see
Jim.
you. I hope to see you out and about soon. And
Absolutely. Somewhere on
I'll
Main Street, I'm sure.
yeah, you got it. All right, have a great day.
Thanks.
Okay.